Brazo. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
This bill, I would like to first thank individuals from the Canadian Institute for Substance Use Research at the University of Victoria, in particular Dr. Tim Stockwell, Dr. Tim Namey, Adam Shirk, Kate Valance, and Ashley Wetlaufer. So I rise today to propose a modest but essential amendment to the Food and Drugs Act to require honest labeling, a cancer warning on alcohol products. Most Canadians know that excessive alcohol consumption is harmful to their health. Everyone knows that over time, alcohol can damage the liver. We are all aware that binge drinking can lead to loss of judgment and bodily control. More and more people are aware of fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, and many know about the devastating consequences on the roads caused by intoxicated drivers. Pour ceux qui ne sauraient pas, Monsieur le Président,
For those who aren't aware of this, Madam Speaker, a recent report indicates that 4 Canadians a day are killed by intoxicated drivers on our roads. Some here may be aware of the costs of alcohol abuse in terms of lost productivity, health care, and the criminal justice system. In 2017, it was estimated that $16.6 billion were lost in these 3 areas, according to the Canadian report on the costs and harms of substance abuse. But what most Canadians don't know is that alcohol causes deadly cancers. Alcohol consumption causes at least 7 known fatal cancers. Even in small amounts, it causes cancer of the mouth and throat, vocal cords, esophagus, breast, liver, and colon.
A senior scientist with the Canadian Institute for Substance Use Research at the University of Victoria says, and I quote, "Even 1 drink a day can increase your risk of some cancers," end quote. This data is not in dispute. This is not hypothetical. The greater amount consumed, the higher the risk one will get one of these cancers. Most anti-cancer efforts focus on the cure or disease management. Considerable strides have been made in allowing people to live longer while managing their cancer. These are admirable aims. Je crois, Madame la Présidente, qu'autant...
I believe, Madam Speaker, that as much, if not more, effort should be devoted to prevention. Research shows that only 1 in 4 Canadians know that alcohol can cause cancer. 25%. But that's not enough. People today, especially young people, want to know what's in their food and drinks. They also want to know who makes their clothes and how the components of their electronic devices are extracted, and that's their right. The majority of consumers don't know that alcohol can cause deadly cancers, and they have a right to know that. They have the right to know what they are putting into their bodies.
Canadian Institute for Substance Use Research at the University of Victoria says Canadians can quickly determine the amount of calcium in their can of peas from the label. Yet when buying a calorie-dense, potentially addictive, intoxicating carcinogen, none of this information is conveyed on the label. Canadians learn a lot about food and drinks through labels, except for alcohol. Consuming peas does not raise the risk of developing 7 fatal cancers, Madam Speaker, but consuming alcohol does. Alcohol is a drug which seems to enjoy a unique place in our culture. It seems to escape the warnings placed on other harmful drugs. Pourquoi, Madame la Présidente?
Why, Madam Speaker? Illusions and myths are one of the reasons. Charming cultural folklore teaches us that young adults can consume wine at the family table and so learn to be responsible drinkers. In fact, those who drink at a young age are more likely to become heavy drinkers later in life. Another popular belief, Madam Speaker, is the idea that small amounts of red wine are good for you. Although some very minor positive health effects have been noted, these effects have been greatly exaggerated. An overwhelming amount of data shows the opposite. In fact, the World Heart Federation emphasizes the fact that alcohol does not protect heart health. Not only does it not protect it, but it's harmful to heart health. Don't get me wrong, the myth that alcohol has heart health benefits may be good for boosting sales, but it's completely false. It's unfair to let consumers believe that alcohol has health benefits. Here's what the bill does not represent. The bill is not ushering in a new era of prohibition. No doubt, Madam Speaker, you and members of this chamber have already heard people say that this represents excessive moralizing and the reintroduction of prohibition, but the bill does not mandate prohibition. No one will be forced to drink moonshine and speakeasies. We're not going back to the bootlegging days of moonshine. Not at all. Nice try. This bill is simply about protecting consumers. Canadians have a right to know what's in their food and what the proven health effects are.
Not about the nanny state run amok. There's also some agitation about the nanny state and government overreach when it comes to making labels honest. Images of a heavy-handed, joyless parliament are trotted out. But, Madam Speaker, informative labels are not about stealing joy. The labels I'm asking for are to provide necessary health information. Providing basic health risk information is not overreach. It is a basic responsibility of industry. And if industry won't do it, for any one of the many sincere-sounding reasons lobbyists will argue, it becomes the basic responsibility of Parliament to step in. Canadians deserve nothing less than honest, straightforward, cancer-warning labels on their alcoholic beverages. Those who push for their overreach narrative may in fact be called the lobby state, where sophisticated, well-financed campaigns conspire to tell consumers that it is in their best interests not to have products honestly labeled. Madam Speaker, this bill is not about anti-business. Some have accused this effort of being anti-business by asking for cancer warning labels. This is nonsense. Businesses should label their products honestly. During the regulatory process, industry, along with public health and cancer researchers, will have plenty of opportunity to work with regulators to determine the specifics of the cancer warning label. Telling the truth about their products should be the cornerstone of every business. Sure, they would rather not have customers know that their product is directly linked to at least 7 fatal cancers. That's hardly a good selling point, but it is the case, and consumers have a right to know. If dramatic warnings about the anti-business nanny state reintroducing prohibition don't stop this bill, lobbyists will be ready with yet another weapon. I call this, we will do anything for love, but we won't do that argument, and thank the late great Meatloaf for the inspiration. Here, lobbyists will impress parliamentarians with how much they are doing for the community in many, many other ways. They will provide glossy educational pamphlets and will point to their messaging about drinking responsibly. They will argue that this is already working well, that industry and government are working so very well together. So why rock the boat with this cancer labeling fear-mongering? If these arguments seem familiar, Madam Speaker, that is because they were deployed extensively by the tobacco lobby. It's exactly the same song. Our product doesn't cause cancer, and if it does, we shouldn't have to label it. Look at all the good we do in the community by providing jobs, sponsoring sports and culture, and so on. Why punish the hardworking men and women who work in our industry? This is what we are going to hear. So it is commendable, Madam Speaker, that industries fund worthwhile community projects, and we can all applaud these initiatives. But such good works should never be used as a moral shield, as a way to squirm out of their responsibility to tell the stark truth about cancer risks to consumers. So I'm asking my colleagues to resist the lobbyist siren song long enough to hear me out. Let me take you through the 4 things the bill requires labels to have. At 5.1a, we are asking that the labels indicate what constitutes a standard drink, because research shows that Canadians do not know what a standard drink is. How can they follow healthy guidelines or intelligently make decisions about their drinking if they do not have this basic information? At 2b, it further asks for the number of standard drinks per container. Currently, some people believe a bottle of wine contains 2 or more standard drinks. Some think it contains one. How are consumers supposed to make informed, intelligent decisions about the risks of fatal cancers if they do not know this basic information? At 3C, we're asking for input from Health Canada regarding the dosage of this carcinogen. The risks should be clearly and plainly stated. And finally, and most importantly, in my view, at D, requires a plain language, easily accessible and understood message about the direct link between consumption of the product and several types of fatal cancers. This is the cancer warning. It is the crux of the bill. If we are to reduce the number of loved ones being taken before their time, it is absolutely essential to provide this information directly and plainly to consumers. Cancer is pernicious and insidious. A person can do everything right and still get it. It can claim the young and old, the health conscious, and the person that abuses substances. We know that it can seemingly strike out of nowhere, and that to a great extent, all of us are vulnerable. But Madam Speaker, I hope I'm making myself clear here. This chamber can help reduce the number of fatal cancers of the mouth, throat, vocal cords, breast, liver, and colon cancers. Donc, en appuyant ce projet de loi, les Canadiens...
By supporting this bill, Canadians will be better equipped to fight cancer. Through straightforward and simple labeling, Canadians will receive the information they need to make informed choices about their own health. Will deaths from cancers of the mouth, throat, vocal cords, esophagus, liver, breast, and colon decrease overnight? No, not necessarily. But they will decrease because Canadians will be confronted with medical facts before they choose to consume. Some will ignore the cancer warnings, and we understand that. As I said earlier, we're not the nanny state. Adults have a choice. But many more Canadians will heed the warning. Many, we hope, will read the warning and moderate their consumption. They will begin keeping a personal tally of their consumption every week. Some will do it deliberately and others unconsciously. They will know what a standard drink is, how many drinks are in a container, and when they are increasing their risk of developing a deadly cancer.
Yes, they will. But tobacco lobbyists were upset about cancer warnings too, back in the day. Tobacco lobbyists had very many expensive temper tantrums, providing a great deal of work for the legal profession. Court cases about tobacco and cancer drag on to this day. But through honest labeling, everyone who smokes cigarettes is fully aware of their increased cancer risk. So to summarize, Madam Speaker, I'm not standing before you today as a person who struggled with alcohol abuse on my high moral horse preaching abstinence to my colleagues. While I'm happy to be almost 3 years sober, my own issues are entirely beside the point. I'm here as a person concerned with reducing the number of cancers in Canada. I fought a boxing match against a certain Prime Minister to raise money for cancer research. I did that to honor my late mother, who died of cancer in 2004. So, Madam Speaker, obviously, we cannot prevent all cases of fetal cancer, but we can make a significant dent in cancer deaths by honestly labeling alcohol products. The choice is always with the consumer, as it should be. The role of government is to intervene as lightly and as infrequently as possible. We are not telling people how to live their lives, Madam Speaker. There is, in my view, a role for Parliament in insisting that consumer products are labeled honestly. Alcohol is a Class 1 or Group 1, as some prefer, carcinogen, same as tobacco smoking and asbestos. And that information needs to be on the label. So with Bill S-254, it will be. Thank you, Madam Speaker.